After 43 years of public service, 11 at NASA and 32 with the National Weather Service, Dr. Louis Uccellini retired on January 1st. His last 8+ years were spent as director of the Weather Service, and tonight we are delighted to welcome him back to Weather World. Nice to see you again, Louis, and congratulations.
Thank you, John.
So how about just a short trip down memory lane? How do you go from a kid growing up on Long Island to the director of the National Weather Service?
Well, the pathway is always unique in anybody's career. And there was a lot of, I would say, capricious moments, lucky moments in that career path. But a common denominator is I was always interested in the weather, always interested in meteorology, always asking why, or how do they know that, or how do they make a forecast? Why was the forecast wrong, or why was it right sometimes and wrong sometimes? Always asking questions, always interested, always wanted to be a meteorologist as far back as I can remember.
Talk a bit about, because it's so fresh in your mind, talk a bit about what a huge organization the Weather Service is. Not just the forecast offices, but data, research centers, the website.
Well, the Weather Service covers an area about 1/3 of the Northern Hemisphere, from Guam up to Alaska, out to the Mid-Atlantic. We have those daily 24/7 responsibilities across 11 service areas, from space weather to ocean prediction, from the sun to the sea. When I talk to students, I tell them, if they're not interested in that domain and that kind of challenge with respect to observing and forecasting and understanding, you're in the wrong room. Okay, it's an incredible responsibility. It is really an amazing organization with an amazing mission that the employees, incredible employees, dedicated to that mission of protecting life and property. Not only doing the analysis, collecting the observations, making the forecast, by connecting with decision makers to affect decisions right down to the community level, is really extraordinary.
And you mentioned the 24/7, 365 nature of the National Weather Service, arguably impacting every American. What are some of the challenges of trying to make changes in such an organization?
Well, it's true. We touch every person, every community, every day with our observations, forecasts, warnings, whether it's we're producing them or we're providing the basic data to the private sector, to the media, to the academic community. It touches everyone. In terms of making changes and advancing the Weather Service, we're always looking to advance across all components, observations, the central processing, the computing, the analyze, forecast, the support functions now, especially with those related to public safety, dissemination. Making the changes while you're making all this work on a daily basis is extraordinarily complicated. It's like, the analogy I use is like changing the gauge of the railroad tracks while you're still running the trains. Okay, so we have to be careful, and we also have a broad set of users, different users, and some want change and rapid change, and others don't, because their algorithms are now set to what we're doing today. So we have to, that's why I use the word evolve. We evolve in terms of the Weather Service changes, and always in communication with the users, with people who rely on our information. So it is complicated, but it's absolutely necessary, because the science and the technology, as we all know, is advancing at a very rapid pace. And we have to keep up with that, even as we're providing today's services.
Yeah. How does the National Weather Service annual budget compare, say in general terms, to that of some other agencies? How much does the average taxpayer contribute to supporting the Weather Service?
Well, when I took over the Weather Service in 2013, we had a budget of close to $900 million. It's now at 1.3 billion. It's going up. Like I said, there's 11 service areas, and there's a lot of stuff we do. in terms of observations, forecast warnings, and connecting to every community from Guam to Puerto Rico, right? I mean, that whole domain space. So I have to make sure I'm talking in the past tense here now, that I didn't compare ourselves to other agencies in that regard. We focused on our mission, on what it would take to reach that mission, what it would take to continually advance the Weather Service, not only within the Weather Service, but we argued for budgets within NOAA and even partnered with other agencies to advance our observations and infrastructure aspects to move the weather services forward. And it's the Hill that decides. And it's very clear that, first of all, we had tremendous support on the Hill, bicameral, bipartisan support in the almost 9 years that I was the director of the Weather Service. Terrific support. But we still had to make the case for today's budget and what we needed for tomorrow. And it's our users, media, emergency managers, public safety officials who are on the Hill supporting those budget asks that actually gets it over the finish line. So it's a very tight process. And I think the increase in budget I just referred to is a reflection of the amazing job the field has done over the past decade to really address these extreme events.
Yeah. Louis, we're out of time this evening on Weather World. We're going to continue this conversation on a future show. Thanks so much to our guest, Dr. Louis Uccellini, recently retired director of the National Weather Service. We will see you again soon, Louis.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. We'll have a recap of the short range forecast next.